Yo, what's up? Dr. Swole here, MD, pro physique athlete. Today I'm going to be sharing 10 advanced bulking tips to help you maximize your gains. Learning how to bulk properly is key for bodybuilding, but there are levels to it. When you start out, you're going to start building muscle just from lifting weights and getting your protein in. But as you become more advanced, as a natural, it gets harder and harder to actually continue making those muscle gains. And you're going to have to continue upgrading your knowledge in order to continue progressing. Today I'm going to be sharing some of those more advanced strategies that you can use as you become more advanced. Advanced bulking tip number 1 is to bias calories peri-workout. The peri-workout window is going to be the time when calories are going to be more useful. Having some carbs on board when you start your workout can be helpful for performance. It won't be that big of an effect because weightlifting just isn't that demanding on the grand scale of sports, but you are probably going to have a slight advantage over just training fasted. The time after your workout is also going to be helpful for muscle growth because you want those nutrients available to shuttle into your muscles. Now, if you are bulking and you find yourself full all the time, it might be difficult to get in a lot of calories before your workout. A lot of people don't like training on a full stomach, but that post-workout window is going to be helpful. Now, keep in mind the key here is peri-workout. So as long as you have those calories around in that peri-workout phase, you're probably going to be okay. So you don't need to be sprinting out of the gym to down your protein shake. As long as you're having food every 3 to 5 hours, you're going to be solid. As a more advanced natural bodybuilder bulking, you do want to think about food composition to some extent, and the post-workout meal is an example of this. So I'd recommend having more of your easily digested protein and carb sources post-workout. Again, the idea here is to get those nutrients into your muscles as quickly as possible. I don't want you to necessarily be going out and seeking sugary foods to put in that post-workout meal, but if you are going to be having some more simple carb sources throughout the day, this is going to be a good place to put them. Furthermore, protein and carb sources are going to be more helpful in this meal. I wouldn't recommend stacking as many fats in this meal because you want it to digest quickly. An advanced bulking tip in terms of tracking progress is to use scale weight trends and averages. It's easy to get confused when you see your weight fluctuating from day to day, but the key is the trend over time. As a more advanced natural bodybuilder, you are going to be bulking at conservative rates as you lean bulk. For intermediate to advanced athletes, I recommend bulking at a rate of about 0.5 to 1% of your body weight gained per month. That isn't very much. For example, for myself, I'm only trying to gain about a pound a month, which works out to 0.25 pounds per week. And small increments like this can be difficult to track from day to day. I'd recommend having a spreadsheet or some kind of tracker where you can look at the trend over time. As long as you're bulking at the right rate from week to week, you're going to be solid. Advanced bulking tip number 4 is to keep an eye on your waist size. There is a maximum rate at which you're able to build muscle, and beyond that, additional weight is going to be fat. Now, when you're bulking as a natural, for the most part, you are going to be putting on some fat along with muscle. That's pretty much inevitable as you become more advanced. The key is to lean bulk at a rate where you minimize that additional fat gain. As we just talked about, you want to be looking at scale weight trends and averages, but people will often also ask me about body measurements. I personally don't think it's worthwhile spending so much time measuring yourself all the time, but one thing I do like to keep an eye on is waist circumference. If you're bulking and you see your waist circumference going up rapidly, that is a good indicator that you're probably putting on a lot of fat. You're not going to be growing a lot of muscle in your midsection, so if you see that circumference going up quickly, that is going to be a bad indicator. An easy way to keep an eye on this is just pay attention to your belt size. I find using the notches on your lifting belt to be useful. So it is normal for your belt size to go up an inch or two during a bulking phase, but it shouldn't be going up quickly. An advanced bulking nutrition tip is to place fats and slow digesting protein sources before bed. This is basically the opposite of our post-workout meal. Before bed, we want to put more slow digesting sources so that we have a continuous source of nutrients throughout the night. Fats are a good example here where they are slow digesting. So I do like to stack a bit more of my fat sources in my pre-bed meal. In terms of protein sources, a solid protein source is going to be a good bet because that's going to digest more slowly than a shake. If you are going to be going for a protein powder, I'd recommend trying casein. Playing around with food composition like this isn't going to make a huge difference, but we're talking about advanced bodybuilders here really trying to optimize everything. Listen up, because this is a critical advanced bulking tip that I want all of you guys to understand. And that is, you want to maximize your bulk to cut ratio. The bulk to cut ratio is a critical concept I want you guys to understand to maximize your results over time. Basically, it's the ratio of the amount of time you spend bulking to the amount of time you spend cutting. And you want to maximize the amount of time you spend bulking relative to cutting. Let's look at these two examples here. In the first one, this person spends half their time bulking and half their time cutting. The problem is that time spent cutting is relatively unproductive. As an advanced bodybuilder, it's much harder for you to build muscle than it is to lose fat. And if you do things correctly, it is very possible to lose fat without losing muscle. As an advanced athlete, it's actually very difficult to build muscle if you're not in a surplus. So you really want to be maximizing the amount of time you spend bulking throughout the year. In the second example here, this person spends most of their time bulking and then they go through a short aggressive mini cut. During that mini cut, they lose all the excess fat they put on during their bulking phase, but they maximize the time they're actually spending building muscle. And you can see they've basically unlocked this much extra productive bulking time. As an advanced athlete, you really need to be maximizing your productive bulking time because muscle growth is such a slow process at that level. I recommend that your bulk to cut ratio be at least 4:1. But for myself, for example, I'll spend 8 months bulking to a 3-week mini cut. That works out to a bulk to cut ratio of 10.7. Now your bulk to cut ratio will depend somewhat on your level. So beginners will be fine with smaller bulk to cut ratios. This is because you don't have the experience to mini cut properly. You probably don't want to be going through super aggressive fat loss phases. You're also going to be bulking more quickly in order to capture those beginner muscle gains. Here's some advanced training advice for bulking. I'd recommend tracking your mesocycle to mesocycle progression as an advanced natural bodybuilder. When you're a beginner, you're able to advance from workout to workout. That is, you can just keep on linearly adding weight. But as you become more advanced, it's going to be harder and harder to make such quick rates of progress, and you will have to slow down your rate of progression. Intermediate athletes may progress from week to week, and advanced athletes might only progress from month to month or slower. If you are this advanced level, you will have a slower rate of progress, so you will want to trace it from mesocycle to mesocycle. A mesocycle is a unit of time from deload to deload. This can range from anywhere from every 4th week to every 12th week, depending on your level. For myself, I deload every 4th week, so one mesocycle is a month long. So I will compare my performances from week 1 of a mesocycle to week 1 of another mesocycle, and week 2 to the other week 2. This way, I'm still able to hit workout PRs, but I'm comparing to the previous month. Tracking your progression in this way is going to be really motivating, and it will ensure that you're still continuing to make progress. I would recommend making sure that you have a training diary in order to keep track. When it comes to exercise selection, I recommend against muscle confusion that is trying to switch things up every workout. But how about when you actually need some variation? At some point, as you become more advanced, your program will get stale, and having some changes from time to time will help to keep things novel. What I recommend you do is figure out a pool of your favorite exercises. Some indicators of a good exercise that can help you choose are exercises that get you feeling a burn in the target muscle, give you a good pump, make you feel sore in that muscle the next day, and that you have a good mind-muscle connection with. You do want to have a pool of favorite exercises so that you're not just stuck doing the same thing all the time. As an advanced athlete, you will need a bit more variation than you do as a beginner, but you do want to be keeping exercises in for at least 3 or 4 months, and longer if you're continuing to make good progress. I will personally think about switching exercises when I find my progress really stalling, or if I start to get aches and pains from it. Next advanced bulking training tip is to use your main lifts as indicators of progress. Your main heavy compound movements are going to be the best suited for progressive overload. So these are going to be the ones you really want to be keeping an eye on in terms of progress. Ideally, you do want to be progressing in all movements, but I do recommend choosing a muscle for your bigger muscle groups, like your chest, back, quads, and glutes and hamstrings, and using that as your main lift. As an advanced bodybuilder, you do have to be careful about trying to progress everything too quickly because you will run into connective tissue issues. So for your other exercises, for example, you might progress a bit more slowly. But just remember, you still want to be thinking about progressive overload in some way, even if it is slow. An advanced bulking tip, circling back to nutrition, is to bias more calories to lifting days. Again, this is another one of those more advanced nutrition timing concepts. But your lifting days are going to be days when you're going to have more requirements for that nutrition, and a workout is going to give your body more of a reason to use those calories for muscle growth. You also tend to be more hungry on lifting days than on rest days, so this actually makes sense from an appetite perspective as well. What do you guys think should be the 11th bulking tip that I didn't mention here? Let us know in the comments below. If you really want to optimize your bulking nutrition, check out my book, Dr. Swole's Bulking Manual, where I go through a complete guide to setting up your nutrition for bulking. By the end of it, you'll be able to set up a full meal plan and set up a bulking phase. If you're able to absorb and implement all the knowledge from my books, you shouldn't have to hire a coach, and that will save you a lot of money. If you are a bit more advanced and you're really trying to optimize those muscle gains, check out this video where I talk about hypertrophy periodization. Periodization is the manipulation of training variables over time to maximize results, and not many people talk about it, but I do think it makes a difference at an advanced level. Keep upgrading your gains by subscribing to the channel, and we'll see you next time.